Hey everyone, welcome to our kitchen! Up until now, we have looked at the Therapeutic Alliance's impact on patient and clinician mental health, as well as patient outcomes in audiology and speech therapy. The quality of the relationship can act as a buffer to clinician burnout, support patient mental health, and improve overall therapeutic outcomes. So how do we construct a therapeutic alliance? Let's take a look at the first step. Today we're going to be doing some baking, and as you can see I have 4 ingredients in front of me, which are important for the end result. You may be thinking, how does this relate to the Therapeutic Alliance? Well, just as we have 4 ingredients to bake our cake, we have 4 main variables that we use to construct a Therapeutic Alliance. Namely, clinician factors, client-therapist matching, and contextual factors. Just as flour contains many fine grains, which when combined provide structure, impacts texture, and impacts the rising process during baking, our first variable, clinician factors, also impacts the structure and growth of the Therapeutic Alliance. Think of your own doctor, therapist, or healthcare professional with whom you have regular contact. Think of your relationship with them and how it came to be that way. In many cases, when clinicians are present, empathetic, respectful, warm, and interested in their clients, trust can be built. These characteristics have proven to contribute to the strength and quality of the Therapeutic Alliance. However, these characteristics of the clinician are not enough in isolation. It has been found that behavior during therapy and treatment has been influential. This includes providing the patient with honest feedback, being humorous when appropriate, and recognizing the patient's lived experience. All of these behaviors lead back to the central theme of treating clients as people. When person-centered care is prioritized and the power dynamic of patient and clinician is stripped away, leaving only 2 people behind, that is when a positive therapeutic alliance can be built. I know this is a lot, and if you're an emerging healthcare professional, don't worry. Just as bakers sift through flour to get rid of the lumps, which may negatively impact the cake, we as clinicians can refine our skills and positive clinician factors to build better therapeutic alliances.
Our second variable impacting the therapeutic alliance is client factors. Knowing and considering the factors relevant to your client is important in forging deeper and more meaningful clinical relationships. Similar to these grains of sugar, there are many clinician factors. These include previous experiences of personal and healthcare relationships, insight into their difficulties, and expectation for change. Why is this? Well, negative experiences can lead to patients not being as trusting and being reluctant to invest in relationship with the clinician. In the same way that the absence of sugar impacts the sweetness of a cake, the absence of client buy-in due to negative experiences robs the relationship of sweetness and depth. A patient's insight into their own difficulties also plays an important role in whether they are willing to partner in with the clinician. This is because if they do not see anything wrong, they will not be motivated to commit to therapy or build a therapeutic alliance. Importantly, the therapeutic alliance is a partnership where both parties must contribute equally for growth and contain what is known as the 4 foundational conditions, that is, being present, receptive, genuine, and committed. It is only when all these factors coexist that deeper, more meaningful clinical relationships can be forged. The relationship between the therapeutic alliance and client factors is bidirectional, meaning that both influence each other. For example, the quality of the therapeutic relationship can have a positive or negative effect on patient motivation. Finally, expectation for change may also impact the quality of the therapeutic alliance. Although hope is important in the treatment process, managing expectations is vital to avoid frustration due to slow progress. This frustration threatens the therapeutic alliance and can cause it to crumble.
Our third variable is client-therapist matching. This is the impact of matching the client and the therapist based on specific characteristics on the therapeutic alliance. Research shows that we tend to develop stronger relationships with people who have similar perspectives and characteristics to us. Like our eggs, this serves as a way of binding the clinician and the client. From psychotherapy, we know that when a clinician and a client share commonality, such as shared backgrounds, shared perspectives, and shared worldviews, we are more likely to develop a stronger therapeutic alliance. Now, we live in a very diverse country, and the diversity within our professions is quite limited, which obviously makes achieving this a challenge. However, there are some practical things that we can do to overcome this. Firstly, we can recognize that client-therapist matching makes a difference, and respond to this through trying to learn basic things in our patients' languages. Showing interest and respect towards their cultures also makes a big difference. Within our own clinical practice, we found that even if you're not proficient in a language, patients tend to be significantly more open to a healthcare professional who attempts to connect with them in their home language. This helps them feel comfortable, respected, and understood, which all help in building a positive therapeutic alliance, and is something that we will be using within our future clinical practice.
The fourth and final core variable impacting the therapeutic alliance is contextual shapers. These factors are outside of the clinician's control and may aid or hinder in the establishment and maintenance of a therapeutic alliance. We will be exploring some of the main contextual factors, but before we do so, let's take a look at the final ingredient: butter. Butter is key in making decadent desserts and contributes to the structure and tenderness. In the same way that skipping butter in a recipe could become detrimental to the end result, neglecting patient-centered care and using the medical model as a mode of service delivery strips away opportunities for rich clinical encounters. This may negatively impact the therapeutic alliance. So when baking, following the recipe and allocating time to complete each step thoroughly is very important. Very often, the process is just as important as the outcomes. In our clinical work, the same is true. However, there is often an emphasis placed on the outcomes, which may become a barrier in connecting with our patients. But we can overcome this by adopting a therapeutic approach to assessment and management. In this way, we can follow the steps to building a therapeutic alliance while still meeting our patients' goals. Just as baking a cake requires time, building a therapeutic alliance does too. The amount of time needed will differ from person to person, just as the cooking time differs across recipes. The time constraints imposed on our sessions with our patients can negatively impact the therapeutic strength, structure, and depth. Just as under-baking a cake would cause it to become sunken. Finding ways on strengthening the therapeutic alliance while meeting the intervention and assessment goals is important.
Finally, family factors also form part of contextual shapers which impacts the therapeutic alliance. The family's perception of the therapeutic alliance and the attitudes to the intervention impacts the patient's views either negatively or positively. This can either hinder or aid the therapeutic alliance. Opening up the therapeutic alliance to the family or caregivers is important. By doing this, we build rapport, increase the probability of caregiver buy-in, improve patient motivation, and the continuity of care. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for learning and baking with us. We hope to see you in our next video where we will unpack step 2 and 3 of building a therapeutic alliance. Bye!